This is the After Party, live with Kim McAllister. Pick a couch, grab a drink, and settle into the conversation.
Welcome to the After Party Live, the lip gloss, and I'm ready for the next show. Here it comes. Apologies for the lateness. The conversation about the demise of America continued off air, and it got, depressing with Mark and I after the show. So sorry about that. We didn't stop. The YouTube show stopped, but we didn't stop. So here we are. We're going to uplift. We're going to cleanse. We're going to take a moment and realize that we still exist and we're living and there are good things in the world, and it's okay. We're all going to be okay. Teacher Lori says, watch some puppy and kitten video shorts. There's a good channel with huskies and cats doing intelligence tests. I love that. Whatever makes you happy, whatever we have to do to lift our spirits. I had a hummingbird fly into my classroom once back when I was teaching second grade. That's kind of the story of the day, Vanessa. I'm so glad that you mentioned it, because there's this little parakeet that brought some serious joy to the world. Well, I should say to a bunch of kindergartners and to the rest of us as well. This parakeet escaped from its cage and was flying around Ontario, Canada. I think it's Canada. Yeah, Canada. And because there's an Ontario in California as well. And is now back with its owner. But before it was recaptured or reunited with its family, it managed to fly into this kindergarten classroom, and it landed right on a little girl's head. This happened at St. Noel Chabanel Catholic School in Wasaga Beach in Ontario. This parakeet flew right into the kindergarten class and landed on one girl's head twice before it was contained by the teacher and then taken to the school office, where the bird was given a temporary home before officials attempted to find its owners. The school named it Stormy. It's actually an escaped parakeet named Snow, but they called it Stormy until they figured out it was actually Snow. They said we had so much fun spending time with Snow during her stay at our school. From classroom visits to office hangouts, we loved every minute with her. While we are sad to see her go, our hearts are full knowing she's back with her family right where she belongs. That must have been funny for that little girl that had that. What is that? I mean, I can imagine it was scary at the beginning, and then there's this bird on your head twice. It likes you. That brought a little joy to the kindergarten class. There is a story, lest we wonder how smart animals are, about this cow that managed to use a tool. And if an animal can use a tool, then it's probably smarter than we give it credit for. Researchers in Austria have documented the first instance of a cow using a tool. This cow, named Veronika, picked up a stick and scratched herself with the stick. And she does it all the time. In areas that she can't reach or that are itchy, she'll find a stick, she'll pick it up, and she'll use the stick to scratch the itch. Sticks and brushes she will use and pick up with her mouth to scratch herself. There's a team from the University of Veterinary Medicine in Vienna. They say Veronika is a Swiss brown cow. She's a pet of a local resident named Vitkar Vigele, and she's been holding sticks in her mouth to scratch her body for years. She first started picking up pieces of wood about 10 years ago, then moved on to a long brush. She shows preference for the brush to scratch where her skin is the thickest, and uses the handle end to scratch her more sensitive areas. They've published their findings on this in the journal Current Biology. They think that Veronika's behavior could lead to a total reassessment of the intelligence of farm animals. The findings, say the veterinarians, highlight how assumptions about livestock intelligence may reflect gaps in observation rather than genuine cognitive limits. When they saw the footage of the cow using a stick, they said it was very clear she wasn't doing it by accident, that this was a meaningful example of tool use in a species that's rarely considered from a cognitive perspective. So they saw the video, these researchers, and they think, oh, we got to go and meet Veronika. We have to go see her do this in action. And so they did. They visited Veronika in person, examined her behavior. And here's the quote: "We show that a cow can engage in genuinely flexible tool use. Veronika is not just using an object to scratch herself, she uses different parts of the same tool for different purposes, and she applies different techniques depending on the function of the tool and the body region." They did reference Gary Larson's uh Far Side comics, when I guess he made one called Cow Tools, with a cow posing with bizarre and useless objects. So there's a bit of a joke there. They say that Veronika didn't fashion tools like the cow in Gary Larson's cartoon, but she did choose and adjust and use one with notable dexterity and flexibility. And so they say, perhaps the real absurdity lies not in imagining a tool using cow, but in assuming that such a thing could not exist. And so Veronika may change the way her cow friends are perceived. I don't know if it's going to change the way we deal with cows or not. Whiskey. Talk about whiskey. Most of the time, you buy a bottle of whiskey, if you do such things, and you buy a glass bottle, right? Whiskey comes in a glass bottle. Oops, sorry, my microphone's going crazy. But there's this distillery in Scotland, the smallest whiskey distillery in Scotland, called Sterling Distillery, and they want to change. Instead of using glass bottles, they want to use aluminum. I guess you wouldn't be able to see the color of the whiskey. You just kind of have to know what you are getting. The reason that glass has been used is because you can produce this elevated batch of whiskey, and the glass is guaranteed not to interact with the whiskey's delicate flavor profile. And there are some sustainability problems, though, with the reliance on glass, because making it requires more energy, and that is a bigger environmental cost. And it's also heavy. So that increases pollution and other problems with transportation around the world. And then once the bottle is empty, recycling glass is harder than you might think. So the thinking is we're going to leap to aluminum containers. So Sterling Distillery has approached chemical scientists at Scotland's Heriot Watt University to look into how aluminum can affect liquor's chemical composition and flavor profile. They're doing all kinds of testing and using all kinds of tools, nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. They're measuring how alcohol and metal atoms interact when the whiskey is stored in aluminum. They found that contact with the metal often reduced or eliminated important compounds like garlic acid, that volunteer test tasters didn't differentiate between the whiskey housed in the glass and aluminum bottles. So then they went on, they used other tools to measure the metal levels in the whiskey, and they said the small samples used for the taste test were safe, but they soon determined a potentially major branding issue, that no one wants metal poisoning from their whiskey dram. That certain organic acids naturally present in matured whiskey can react with aluminum, and that can lead to aluminum entering the liquid. So if they stir the samples with aluminum metal, the levels were above what would be considered acceptable for even drinking water. So there's all kinds of looking into this. They're still testing, they're still trying to figure it out. Any innovation has to respect the craft of whiskey making and meet the highest standards of safety. But they've got 2 years now they've been given by Sterling Distillery to figure out how to make it happen. They said aluminum whiskey bottles are not impossible in the future, that they need to find some kind of a lining that could withstand years or maybe even decades if you want to lay it down and just keep it for a while. But Sterling Distillery wants to have the aluminum bottling ready for the debut of its first matured whiskey in 2027. So they say they still have some time to locate some kind of liner. So far, nothing yet. So we're still with glass bottles. But aluminum said to be coming. We'll see. I don't know. A story about, speaking of water, this one's kind of, I don't know, ominous. We are, according to The Guardian, in an era of water bankruptcy. Makes you want to buy all the whiskey you can and just lay it down in glass bottles. The United Nations has issued a report that says overuse and pollution have to end urgently because we just don't know when our whole system of getting water might collapse. Can you imagine a world with scarce water resources? Kind of scary to think about. The United Nations says overuse and pollution of water must be tackled urgently because no one knew when the whole system could collapse, with implications for peace and social cohesion. And we know all life depends on water. But this report from the United Nations found many societies have been using water faster than it can be replenished every year in rivers and soils, and they've been overexploiting or destroying long-term stores of water in aquifers and wetlands. And that has led to something they call water bankruptcy, with many human water systems past the point at which they could be restored to former levels. They say the climate crisis is exacerbating the problem because of melting glaciers, which store water, and it's causing whiplashes between dry weather and wet weather. The lead officer of the report, his name is Kaveh Madani, says while not every basin and country is water bankrupt, the world is interconnected by trade and migration, and enough critical systems have crossed the threshold to fundamentally alter global water risk. The result, a world in which 75% of people lived in countries classified as water insecure or critical water insecure, and 2 billion people live on ground that is sinking as groundwater aquifers actually collapse. The fighting over water has jumped since 2010. Major rivers like the Colorado in the United States, the Murray-Darling system in Australia, are failing to reach the sea, and day zero emergencies when cities run out of water, like Chennai, India, are escalating. Half of the world's large lakes had shrunk since the early 90s. Even damp nations like the UK were at risk because of reliance on imports of water-dependent food and other products. So the end result here, what the report tells us, is that many critical water systems are already bankrupt. And this is urgent because no one knows exactly when the whole system will collapse. Makes you think, doesn't it? About all the imports and all the things we get from other countries. And even droughts here. Gotta be careful with our resources. You know what? I do want to bring you something beautiful. Can I bring you something beautiful? I found this story in the Smithsonian. They had a contest, a photography contest, and it's based on the most incredible lighthouses, the 20 most beautiful lighthouses. And the pictures are so beautiful that I wanted to share them with you. So let me take away the sad water bankruptcy and bring you lighthouses. Speaking of water, look at all that. Yeah, it's just these pictures are so gorgeous that I thought maybe we could look at some lighthouses together and explore the winners of this Smithsonian contest with the best pictures of lighthouses. So the one you're looking at right now is New England's cliffs, where the lighthouses stand like guardians of the shore, according to the Smithsonian. This is in Maine. A beautiful picture. The next one. Oops. Oh, that's the view. Look at the view down to the center of the lighthouse. So very cool. Here's the next one. See if I can back it up a little bit. There it is. Yeah, really, really pretty. So the spiral staircase you saw was in San Diego's Point Loma Lighthouse. This one you're looking at is the Pinedo de Saudade Lighthouse. It was built in 1912 and it sits on a cliffside road that overlooks the Atlantic Ocean. This lighthouse is in Portugal. This next one is called the North Head Lighthouse, and it was finished in 1898. Look at that picture. There's beauty in the world. It's visible from the shores of Benson Beach and Cape Disappointment State Park in Washington. And it sure is pretty. Again, that's the North Head Lighthouse. It's another pretty one. This one is Cape Elizabeth. It is I believe the oldest lighthouse in Maine. This is such a pretty picture. Look at that. Beautiful. The Cape Elizabeth is the oldest in Maine. It was completed in 1791. That's how long that lighthouse has been around. So pretty. Here's one called the Nubble Light. It was built in 1879, and this one is actually still in use, the Nubble. It's used by the Coast Guard. They call it the Nub, and it is in Maine as well. Built in 1879 and still going strong. The Safness Lighthouse is on the coast of the Reykjanes Peninsula in Iceland. It has a very distinct orange color and shape. It's 38 feet tall, and it's a kind of rectangular shaped lighthouse. Got to stand out in that Arctic environment, right? It's a really cool perspective of Cape May. This one is in New Jersey, and the picture's taken through an iron gate. What a great shot of Cape May. Again, that one is in Maine. Here's a beautiful picture of the Bass Harbor Lighthouse, also in Maine. It was built 165 years ago. Look at that. What a gorgeous picture that is. So this one attracts an average of 180,000 visitors every year. It is on the National Register of Historic Places. And again, it's called the Bass Harbor Lighthouse. Here's another one taken from the inside of a lighthouse. Kind of makes you dizzy. Reminds me of that movie Vertigo. This is the Ponce Inlet Lighthouse. It's in Florida. So pretty. This one is the Thomas Point Shoal Lighthouse on Chesapeake Bay. Kind of this house raised up. It is the last screw pile structure on the Chesapeake Bay at its original site. This one in Maryland. Oh, pretty. Oh, what a picture this one is. Check this out with this glorious moon in the background. See if I can Back up a little bit there. That's pretty. This is the lamp from the Fire Island White Lighthouse in New York. You can see the lamp going around and around. Gorgeous picture. So is this one. This is the Bass Harbor Lighthouse again in Maine, looking dramatic in black and white. The next one is in Narragansett Bay in Rhode Island. And look at this White House, or lighthouse, I should say. It does look white, like a White House, but it is a lighthouse. Look at that. Wow. So pretty. This is the Beaver Tail Lighthouse is what it's called. Sits at the end of Connecticut Island on the Narragansett Bay in Rhode Island. I hope I said all that right. Here's a view of an old lighthouse in a small seaside village in Bulgaria. That's an old lighthouse. Look at that one. The next one is the Heceta Head Lighthouse, this one in Oregon. The assistant lightkeeper's house now serves as a bed and breakfast. I've actually been to this one because my parents lived in Florence, Oregon for a while, my dad and my stepmom. And they just sold their house there. So I won't go back to it, but look at that right on the cliffs, the Heceta Head Lighthouse. This is a 56-foot tower. And it first became active in 1894 is when they turned the light on. And again, now the assistant lightkeeper's house is a bed and breakfast. A beautiful coastline there. Check out this one. Speaking of a Hitchcock movie, look at all those birds. Wow. This lighthouse is the I don't know what the name of it is, but it is in Russia. And apparently a lot of birds love it, but you can see if I zoom out how you get there is this little walkway, old wooden walkway up to this lighthouse. Look at that. And again, that one is in Russia. Here's the next one. This is St. Mary's Lighthouse. Why do I keep saying White House? I don't know. It does look white. I'll give myself that. St. Mary's Lighthouse. And it is in Whitley Bay in England. 125 years old. And the last one is called the Castle Hill Lighthouse. It is in Rhode Island. It is 34 feet tall, made of granite. And there it is. 34 feet tall. Kind of has a squatty look to it. It was first turned on in 1890. Castle Hill Lighthouse in Rhode Island. So there you go. We have some beautiful pictures to immerse in, get a little joy, drench ourselves in for just a moment. Before we talk about the things you can buy in the world, I don't think this should be for sale. This is a machine of war and death. And while it's really cool looking to maybe see it in an air show, I don't think we should just be selling this. I think you should have to, whoever's going to own this needs to pass a series of background checks. This story comes out of SF Gate, and this is, the headline says, Cold War era death machine being resurrected at an obscure California airport. The plane is called the Phantom Menace, and it was first put in the sky in 1958 during the Cold War. And it is for sale. Down from 3 million. If you have 950,000 and a place to put it, you could buy this. They call it a warbird, a military aircraft. Yeah. It's described as the world's only privately owned F4 Phantom capable of flight. It's a McDonnell 4 F4H1F. During a demonstration in 1961, this exact plane, dropped several 500-pound bombs on Fort Bragg, influencing the Air Force's decision to order them. But during a weapons test, its undercarriage door and pylon were burned by a Sidewinder missile, a supersonic heat-seeking projectile, according to SF Gate, used in aerial combat. This according to the listing. The aircraft later experienced engine failure, and so it was decommissioned in 1964. This fighter jet is the most produced American jet fighter in history and is known historically to have ushered in a new era of combat because it uses advanced radar and missile technology. So now, at least for the last 10 years, this Phantom has been under renovation at the French Valley Airport. That's in Riverside County. And now it's time to sell it off, and they're looking for a new owner. It has 2 hot ejection seats, new parachutes, survival kits, upgraded engines. It's just ready for you, you know? The restoration of this Phantom is about 85% complete. And so they've taken the price down from $3 million to $950,000. You think that, like, not just anybody should be able to buy a fighter jet? No, I don't think so. All right, let us move now to Travel Tuesday. It is time for us to get away for a moment, and I thought maybe we could take a look at Oslo, Norway. Here's a picture of it. Hey, look at that. I've never been. Have you been? Going to the chat. Has anyone been to Oslo? Cheap at that price. Yeah, I know. We're going to need about 10 of them. Trade your house for the jet. I'm telling you. Well, we're going to Oslo. We'll take a look at the best things to do in Oslo. And Nullifidian, thank you for the 5. Really appreciate it. Please click the like. Please click the subscribe if you haven't already. And Nullifidian reminds me to say the show does not survive without contributions. So thank you so much for the 5. And thank you to everyone who takes the time to contribute to PayPal as well. Also love all the messages and ideas and all the emails and the ways that you support this show. Is that a deck of cards? It looks like a deck of cards, doesn't it? Thank you to the most recent PayPal contributors. That would be Wes, who kicks in 5. Amy P, thank you for your recurring PayPal that you set up every month. Wes from yesterday, Meredith D, and James S, huge thank you. The PayPal information is in the show description. And of course, as Nullifidian has done here, the super chats and super stickers are always open and ready for you. All right, off we go to Norway. We're moving in. The 10 best things to do in Oslo, as indicated by the fine people at Lonely Planet. This is Norway's National Museum, where there is art spanning millennia. The collection bringing to life over 6,500 objects and artworks across 86 chronologically arranged rooms. That's a lot of rooms. On the first floor, design and context of major societal themes. One floor up, famous Norwegian international artists from the year 1500 to the present day. Edvard Munch, including a version of The Scream. There are 3 other versions on display in the Munch Museum as well. There are pieces by Monet and Van Gogh here as well. And then you get to the top floor light hall, where you find the temporary exhibits by the most contemporary artists. So that's kind of cool. Then you can check out the roof of the Oslo Opera House, where the transformation, they say, to Nordic culture began. And it is really beautiful. It's also very modern looking, the Oslo Opera House, but super pretty. And they have, again, the roof area here that you can go check out. Let's see this. My apologies. Yeah. So the Norwegian National Opera and Ballet and the Oslo Opera House, it sits right on the waterfront. It's a white marble masterpiece designed by award-winning Norwegian architects, and it's meant to resemble a glacier gracefully rising from the fjord. It has state-of-the-art rehearsal rooms and performance halls where you can see one of the excellent guided tours. The outside of the building is an extension of the harbor front, inviting everyone to walk up a sloping roof to see the panoramic views across the harbor and the city. So really beautiful. Here's the next one. This is the Vigeland sculpture arrangement in Frogner Park. I have a picture for you. Oh, you're not seeing the pictures because hold on. I'm trying to show a website and I think I have failed here. Our travels are not off to a smooth start, but it's okay. I'm going to save the day. Here it is. This is Vigeland. Look at that. It's beautiful. With those old buildings in the background and the huge old fountain in the front. Really, really pretty. This is a place where you can walk around outside, see all the statues, get a real feel for the city. Masterwork around 40 years in the making. Vigelandsparken. It's a free to visit sculpture park with more than 200 expressive features and pieces done by Norwegian sculptor Gustav Vigeland. It's a beautifully landscaped outdoor art gallery that forms part of Frogner Parken in Oslo's affluent west side. So it brings together this collection of sculptures that are done in granite, iron, and bronze. Vigeland, the artist, was inspired by the complex nature of human emotions, and that is reflected in his artwork from joy and playfulness to grief and anger. One of his most famous works is called The Angry Boy, and it's a sculpture of a toddler throwing a tantrum. But there are other sculptures, including, as you see in the picture, this enormous fountain and a sundial. Really pretty. There's another place to go. And we've already kind of touched on it, but now we're going to get more into Edvard Munch. And there it is, the Munch Museum. You go check out all the art in this place as well. It is right on the waterfront in Bjørvika. The Munch opened in 2021. It's a home dedicated to Norway's most famous artist, Edvard Munch. It has 13 floors where it conserves and displays his work that had been bequeathed to the city of Oslo after his death, or 4 years before his death in 1944. So this museum showcases his paintings, his prints, his sketches. They explore themes of sickness, melancholy, and nature. 3 versions of the Scream are on display here. There's a painting, a print, and a drawing. Only one work is shown at a time to preserve them. and the display is updated every 30 minutes or so. The changing exhibits, they say, offer new interpretations of his art and ensure that you always have a reason to return. So that's pretty cool. Then we have to go see the Dijkman Bjorvika, which they say is a library like no other. Super cool library. I'm all for going to visit libraries, you know? Sometimes a library does it for me. This one looks like a glass library. I have to show you. See if I can pull the picture up. It is a really gorgeous library. Nope, it won't let me pull it up. My apologies. But it looks like, see if I can get it. Here's what it looks like. This library is massive. Sorry, I have to take one down in order to bring you the other one. But here's what it looks like. This cool library. It's huge, right? Glass, at least 5 floors? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 floors. Very cool. This beautiful library is, they say, about as far from a traditional library as possible. It's a 6th floor art-filled space, and it was voted the Public Library of the Year in 2021. There's everything going on here, from teenagers to hanging out to people looking at art. They say as a visitor in Oslo, you're unlikely to be checking out a book or reserving one of their sewing machines or using their 3D printer. All of those services are available at the library there, but there's still a lot to see and do. The building is called an architectural delight. It has cantilevered upper floors that fan out to maximize the footprint while still fitting within its low-rise surroundings. Inside, light comes streaming in from 3 massive skylights in the roof that illuminates the angles and the textures of the interior space. Every floor has a place to sit and create and work and socialize. There's a cinema, there's art installations on the 2nd floor. There's something called Talking Plants, which is an immersive, botanically themed animation soundscape. So that sounds kind of fun. Not just a library. All right, we'll go back to the next thing on the list, which is taking a walk, which we all do after the show's over, right? We all get out there and go for our walk. Yeah. This is a beautiful pathway. I have it. It is the Aker Selva. You could take a riverside walk along the Aker Selva. It's north of the city center. It's about 5.5 miles. It's a treasured natural feature complemented by waterside parks and scenic bridges. Used to be that this waterway was polluted by Oslo's factories during the 19th century textile boom. And even if you walk along now, you kind of get an insight into the industrial heritage of the place, though it has been restored. You can walk and follow the riverside path and the flow. And along the way, you see these old factories that have been converted and now to smart offices and apartments and music venues. There are rushing waterfalls. A one-time sail factory is now home to the Oslo National Academy of the Arts. There's a giant rooftop installation there called This Is It. You can cross over the river and check out the Labor Museum. They have a cool place. And it wouldn't really be a trip to Oslo, to Norway, without taking in a little sauna. And so for that, we go to a floating sauna, part of the Finnish sauna culture. These are hot spots that are a popular way for locals and visitors to warm up and wind down. It's a simple thing. You take a seat on a bench in a wood-paneled room that's heated by a wood-burning stove to between 80 and 95 degrees. And then when you're all sweaty and gross, you jump into the fjord for a cold, exhilarating swim, and then you repeat over and over again as many times as you would like. There are floating communal saunas at Akverbrygge and Bjorkvika. They also offer a sauna cruise where you can go out into a quieter spot in the fjord. They have a motto, sauna to the people, with a selection of floating saunas in different capacities. So that could be fun. And then we're going shopping. So after our sauna, relax a little bit and then go check this place out. Look at that, with all the street art and the little shops along the way. This is the Grünerløkka. I know I said it wrong, and my apologies if you are from Norway. But there are bars and restaurants and shops. Apparently, it's the place to go if you're looking for vintage clothing. And if you like the 70s and disco or 80s glam, there are all kinds of vintage inspired stores. And they say if you rummage, you'll find a bargain here. There are floor to ceiling stores packed with old jeans and retro band t-shirts and vintage items. So that's pretty fun. And then let's go island hopping, fjord hopping. Climb aboard that boat and go island hopping on the Oslo fjord. It is apparently very charming. There are several vessels that run tourist cruises, and they've got public electric ferries that go between the Oslo fjord's islands. You can buy a 24-hour Ruter public transport ticket, or you can go for free if you have an Oslo pass and visit these islands at your own pace. The closest one is Hovedøya. It's about 10 minutes from the shore, and there are forest trails and the ruins of a 12th century Cistercian monastery and old military installations out there. Art galleries, more art as well. There's other connected islands. Kind of fun to go. One of the islands is the last one they say to visit is Langoyen, which used to be the city's landfill, but it's not anymore. Today, it's a sandy beach. There's a nude bathing spot there, a camping area. It's the only island where you can camp. They've got a volleyball court, a kiosk, and some public art. I don't know about playing naked volleyball. Not sure about that. And lastly, we're hiking through the forest in Norway. Let's scan out a little bit on that one. Look at that. Beautiful. This is the Trails of Nordmarka. They say it's rare that a capital city has unspoiled nature within its bounds, but there are very easy to access forested areas that are containing hiking and skiing trails in them. This swath of forests makes up the Nordmarka to the north of the city center. There are also forests to the east and the west, under 40 minutes away. There are 10-kilometer round trip routes. You'll find a welcoming cabin and a choice of drinks and baked goods. So the hike has a treat at the end. And you can get a cinnamon bun to refuel your hike for the return journey. So there you go. I think we got a little taste of Oslo. At least I feel like we did. Got a lot of art in our Oslo. And that was Travel Tuesday. Excellent. Thank you for coming along for the ride. Between the trip to Oslo and the lighthouses that we saw earlier, hopefully you're feeling like, I don't know, a little lighthearted, a little more lighthearted. Perhaps that was the effort made here. Thank you, Susan Roberts, for a 10. Kim, a little something for you. You always make our day. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for helping keep the show rolling. And and covering the cost of the platforms and all the rest of it. Much appreciated. What? Naked volleyball? Watch that butt. Yeah, don't get too close to the guy next to you. Thank you for the contributions. Thank you guys for being here and spending time. As always, you can find me at kimattheafterparty.live. Send emails. Where do you want to go tomorrow for Waterfall Wednesday? Have an idea? Shoot me a message. Let me know. I welcome the input, so thank you for that. And thank you for hanging out with me this afternoon. Tomorrow on the Mark Thompson Show, John Rothman will be on the show. Also, Belinda Weymouth with It's the Planet Stupid, so we'll try to save the planet, and then we'll visit some waterfalls here on the After Party Live. But until we meet again, make it the very best Tuesday that you can, and I'll meet you right back here on the YouTube tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
The After Party Live would like to thank the following contributors and viewers like you.
I love the avocado, Mama.